I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone moving around in my living room, and when I crept downstairs I found a 14-year-old kid holding my son's game console. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "My mom runs the HOA. I can do whatever I want." Hours later, the cops had him in cuffs, but that was just the beginning. His mother, Karen Carson, wasn't just the president of our homeowners association. She was a tyrant with a clipboard, and she was about to turn my life into a war zone. My name's Jake Miller. I live with my wife Tina and our son Max in a quiet cul-de-sac called Maplecrest Court. At least it used to feel quiet. The HOA here wasn't your typical group of neighbors, it was Karen's kingdom. She strutted around in sharp suits, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful clipboard, always ready to find a violation. I'd seen her nitpick lawns and trash cans before, but I never thought her reach would extend into my home. That night proved me wrong. I can still feel the chill when I heard that floorboard creak at 12:17 a.m. My instincts kicked in. I crept down the stairs, saw the blue glow of a phone lighting up my living room, and then Kyle. Karen's son. He wasn't scared. He wasn't even apologetic. He smirked, shrugged, and told me he could go wherever he wanted because his mom was in charge. I held him there until the cops showed up, Tina calling 911 from the stairs, her voice calm but trembling underneath. They led him away, crying like a kid who finally realized rules could actually apply to him. For a moment, I thought justice had worked. But the next morning, Max came home from the bus stop with dirt on his face and a tear in his jacket. Kyle had shoved him, called him a snitch, and told him that Karen would make sure our family had to move. He even filmed it laughing with his buddies. Tina scrolled through Max's phone, her fingers moving fast, saving screenshots, backing them up, filing them into a folder she labeled Evidence Carson. My wife is still wrapped in calm. While I was boiling, she was already laying out a case. Still, I couldn't shake the dread. I sat at the table staring at the folder, feeling like a man who'd just been drafted into a war I didn't want. A part of me wondered if maybe we should just pack up, sell the house, get away from these people. Was I dragging my family into something bigger than we could handle? Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was wrong. That thought gnawed at me until the very next morning when the pounding came at my front door. I checked the Ring camera. There she was. Karen, dressed to kill smile, frozen like a mask. She didn't mention her son breaking into my house, didn't mention him assaulting Max. She went straight to her clipboard. My lawn was a 1/4 inch too long, my trash cans were out 3 minutes late, and my new porch light wasn't approved. She shoved a stack of papers at me, $1 and $700 in fines. Then she leaned in, voice sweet but sharp. Pay or life gets busy around here. I didn't yell. I didn't give her the scene she wanted. I just smiled, thanked her, and closed the door. Inside, Tina held up her phone. "I got it all," she whispered. Every word recorded. That was when I knew this wasn't just pettiness, it was extortion. And we weren't going to roll over. The next days became a blur of paperwork. I tore through the HOA bylaws, highlighting sections, comparing them with her bogus fines. The grass rule didn't exist. The trash can rule outdated by a city addendum. The light fixture fine. Pure fabrication. Meanwhile, Tina dug online and uncovered Maplecrest Security Services, the so-called team Karen threatened me with. Turns out it was nothing but an LLC registered to her brother-in-law Frank, a shell company paid with our HOA dues. And the cherry-on-top news archives showed she'd been ousted from another HOA years ago for the same dirty tricks. But knowing and proving are two different things. I still doubted myself, still wondered if anyone would believe me over her. That's when fate handed me the golden ticket. One afternoon, I pulled a bill from the mailbox and noticed the flap wasn't sealed right. It had been opened and reclosed. They were reading my mail. My anger turned cold. Mail tampering is a federal crime. I set a trap. A decoy letter from a fake law firm, a tiny smear of invisible UV paint on the flap, and a wildlife camera hidden in the bushes aimed right at the box. That same day, I watched Kyle stroll past, glance around, then snatch the envelope. Minutes later, he put it back, thinking he was clever. Under the blacklight, the smear glowed neon green, a perfect thumbprint smeared across it. On the video, Kyle's face crystal clear. That wasn't just HOA harassment anymore, that was federal. I brought everything to Detective Miller at the station. Binder thick with evidence videos from neighbors' screenshots of threats, the mailbox footage. He watched silently, then leaned back, whistled low. This kid's on a fast track to nowhere, and his mother's driving the bus. He gave me his personal number. When she sends her goons, and she will, don't call 911. Call me. It didn't take long. 2 nights later, a white van pulled up outside. 2 men in cheap polo shirts stamped with a maple leaf logo came pounding on my door. One was Frank Carson. Mandatory nighttime exterior inspection, he boomed, flashlight glaring through my windows. My heart raced, but I remembered the plan. I shouted through the door, loud enough for the camera, "There's no such thing. You're trespassing. Leave now." Frank laughed, shoved the door hard enough to rattle the frame, then jammed his hand through the crack, shoving me in the chest. "You're gonna learn to respect the rules." For a second, fear gripped me, but then I heard it. Sirens, getting closer, louder, and then the street exploded in flashing red and blue. Patrol cars boxed them in an unmarked sedan, slid to the curb, and out stepped Detective Miller, calm as stone. He held up his phone, playing the live ring footage Frank shoving me caught in perfect detail. "Does your job description include trespassing and assault?" he asked coldly. The color drained from Frank's face. Cuffs clicked. His buddy was taken down too. That's when Karen came storming out in her robe, shrieking about harassment, threatening to call the police chief. Detective Miller didn't even raise his voice. "Ma'am, I don't think you know the chief." Then he turned to her husband at the doorway. "We have a warrant for your son." Kyle was dragged out pale and terrified, charged with tampering with federal mail. And then a CPS worker stepped forward, briefcase in hand, telling Karen she had questions to answer about her household. Her scream carried down the street, but her power was gone. 2 days later, the HOA clubhouse was packed tighter than I'd ever seen. Every neighbor showed up. Karen tried to spin it as unfortunate misunderstandings, but nobody was buying it. When my name was called, I walked up with Tina, plugged in the laptop, and hit play. The footage spoke for itself. Kyle breaking into houses, threatening my son, stealing mail. Frank and his thug banging on my door, then being arrested. One by one, neighbors stood and shouted their own stories: illegal liens, bogus fines, harassment for wheelchair ramps and basketball hoops. The dam broke. Years of fear poured out. Karen banged her gavel, screaming for order, but nobody listened. The board, pale and sweating, voted on the spot to remove her as president. Her clipboard was just a piece of wood now. The queen had lost her crown. That night, standing at my window, I watched the cul-de-sac glow with porch lights and heard neighbors talking freely again, voices filled with relief. Karen Carson, the woman who thought she could rule by fear, was done. And all I could think was, this bullies win until someone tells them no.